Greetings, it is your girl Melby Cook, and welcome to Hood Conversations. This is when we talk about all of the tough stuff that impacts our community, right? This is when we have the opportunity to dive deep into some issues that are on my mind, and I feel like it's on yours too. And so this week we're going to talk about experiences and expectations and what does it mean to really be Black excellence, right? So I grew up with two parents who did not believe in it being Black excellence. They thought that we should be excellent just because. They thought that we should raise the bar, we should show up, we should go above and beyond just because that is something that we are supposed to do. And so, like, when I hear the term Black excellence, I also wonder what it means, and more importantly, what it means to you. So we're going to get into tonight's conversation. Unfortunately, my main man, my dude, Trey, is not able to be here with us tonight. He had an unforeseen circumstance happen, so everybody show and send Trey some love. But so let's get into it though. So recently, when I say recently, over the last 2 years, I had two kids go off to college, right? And so with both kids, they both had totally different expectations of what they wanted out of an education, what did they wanted out of a school. And it was crazy because through this process, I was being judged by my own folks, like literally judged by my people. And so the first one, right, she decided that she wanted to go be a nurse. And so Coppin State in Baltimore has one of the best nursing programs ever, right? And so her experience was a little different. She knew what school that she wanted to go to. She had two schools in mind. It was one that was like right around the corner from the house, and then the other one that was about 20 minutes from the house, right? One was an HBCU, and the other one was a PWI. And so with her, it was a no-brainer because Coppin had a great program and they were only something to the tune of under $20,000 a year. She had scholarships, nothing else to talk about. However, she did consider the school around the corner for like $60,000 a year. And I'm like, you have to justify the difference between the two, right? But with my son, I felt like I was being judged through the entire process, especially by my folks. We literally took him to look at something to the tune of 30 something schools. My husband was like so into him going to an HBCU. He was going to find him the right one. We made lists about what colleges that he wanted to visit, where he wanted to go. And it was crazy because my son was going to HBCU after tour after tour. And he's like, yeah, I ain't found it yet. And one of the reasons that he struggled with it is he was like, so they don't put any money into their campuses? Because he had something to compare it to. So when he was going to the University of Maryland's, the Penn States, he's like, yo, the campuses are great. They're too big, but they're great. Going to the dining halls, looking at the dorms. And then he was going to some of the HBCUs in the South, and he felt like they were in the middle of the hood. Not only did he feel like they were in the middle of the hood, he was hearing stories about, mice and rats and all this other stuff, and then shootouts around the corner. And it's like, do we take care of our schools? Well, I really wanted to push the HBCU experience because I was the girl who grew up watching A Different World. And so when I was watching A Different World, I was the type of person who was like, yo, when I grow up, I'm going to stump the yard. I'm going to pledge AKA or Delta. Like, I had this whole experience worked up in my head. But by the time that I got about 18 years old and it was time to go off to school, we couldn't make the financial aid happen, right? And so we were calling the school, trying to find resources, trying to find somebody, to kind of come through. Didn't necessarily happen. So I didn't go to the HBCU. So now my son is at the age where it's time for him to go off to school. So, in my head, that's what I was promoting. I wanted him to be a part of this excellence that I kept hearing everybody talk about, right? But then as I started to dig deeper as a parent, I got super confused, right? And I know this is not a topic that we normally talk about. It's kind of taboo. Nobody wants us to talk about our HBCUs because we like, oh, they were for us. They were because there was a need for it. Those were the only organizations or colleges that would really accept us. I get it. But my question is like, do we actually put money back into some of these schools? Like, what are we calling excellence? Because when I'm talking to also friends and like people that I've encountered that have attended, a lot of times they tell me about the experience. They tell me, oh, we had so much fun. I met like a whole bunch of brothers and sisters that looked like me that were making moves. And then my next question normally is, did you have that before you went off to college? Because growing up in the DMV, I realized there's something that we took for granted. So actually, my son grew up in the DMV, right? But there's something that we take for granted, which is I could walk out my door at any given time and I have the opportunity to see any version of Black person. Like, we do everything from holding offices to running businesses to in Fortune 500 companies, or you can see the dude on the block, blue collar worker. There's every variation, right? So at a young age, I introduced my son to the nation. He was off and attending everything that you can think of, from martial arts to fencing, right? So when people kept explaining to me that he needed to go to an HBCU strictly because of the experience, I'm like, well, what else do we get other than just the experience around being around other Black folks, right? Because we are a family that we've done all of the Million Man, Million More marches. We go and we sit and, with different people, different circles, attending lunches and brunches with excellence, right? With 7-figure, 8-figure owners. We go places and my network is like super thick and deep, right? I don't have a lot of friends because if you know me personally, it ain't really my bag, but I have good friends in good places. And so when people are saying to me that he needs to go to the experience, I didn't really know what that means. So if I have somebody watching right now and you went to an HBCU, please elaborate for me. Because I'm biased, right? Because I didn't have that experience. I didn't stump the yard. I ended up going to a PWI eventually later in life, right? And so, like, when we talk about this excellence and we say, well, be a part of it, he needs to see his people and he needs to see this. I'm like, well, does that happen every day for you? And so when I was going in and now I'm asking the school questions, I'm asking things about their technology. I'm asking things about their application process in real life. I mean, like real life. He applied for multiple HBCUs just to appease us, right? He applied for them somewhere in like January. We literally got acceptance letters from some of these schools in August. And I thought to myself, I'm not doing this for the next 4 years. I expect my children to be independent. I expect them to be free thinkers. I expect them to handle their own business. And so, like, if we're talking about now we got to sit in line multiple times and call somebody back 20 times to get something done, like, that's not my bag. Like, I'm not the one that's going to be on the phone, especially when I'm pulling out my pocket, something to the tune of $20,000, $30,000 a year, cash, no financial aid, cash. And I'm going to call you multiple times. Like, I want to know if it's unfair, right? I want to know if the thought process that I have, am I a little judgy? Because I feel like we should have a certain bar and certain level of excellence. It is not acceptable when I feel like I'm talking to folks and they're like, well, he needs to go for the experience. It's going to be amazing and great, but you got to get through the administrative stuff. I'm confused. If the school is making 32 per head, what administrative stuff am I getting through? Why do I have to call people 5 times to get an answer? It kind of like loses me and misses me a little bit, right? And it goes back to my question: what kind of experience are we exposing our kids to? Because when I go, I'm trying to buy the best experience my money can buy. If I'm paying $30,000 a year, if I'm wrong, type in check wrong. Girl, check yourself. Whatever it is, but I really want to know: like, am I wrong for thinking? Or if you agree, type that you agree that for $30,000 a year, that I'm not expecting to have to do my own administrative work. For $30-something thousand a year, I'm expecting him to have an experience from beginning to end. He ended up choosing a PWI, right? PWI is not that big. He goes to York College of Pennsylvania. When I tell you they were on point, he applied late, literally applied at the end of March. By mid-April, he got his acceptance letters and folders and had all of his information. We were attending all kind of parent days or whatever, where we go and we experience the campus. They're asking if we have a bunch of questions answered. It was wonderful. I haven't had to follow up but one time with something. He handles his own stuff. And then when people were like, well, you want to make sure that he goes, because if he goes to a PWI, nobody's going to look out for him. I wonder sometimes, where do we get these facts? Because when I'll share like a couple of experiences. Like, he had attended day one or week one, he attended a dinner at the president's house where the kids were all welcomed in. They asked them about their individual goals. This was all the freshman class, asked them about the individual goals at his school. They called them by name. My son was a criminal justice major, right? And so, yeah, I know I didn't. Yeah, why would we doing this? But I let him live his life and make his own decisions. He was a criminal justice major. So one of the things that they asked him to do was to go to a correctional facility, and they wanted him to look at the inmates and take notes. My son was like, absolutely not. Like, you're not about to have me looking at human beings like they're a science project. He gets that from me. Like, you're not about to have me going here like a science project, evaluating them like we're evaluating animals in a zoo or a habitat. I'm not going to do it. His white professor said, okay, let me learn a little bit more about why you feel like this is unacceptable. She gave him an alternate assignment. And then outside of the alternate assignment, she sat down and invited him to dinner to see what his perspective was in order to revamp the program and see what they can do differently. So when we say things like they don't look out for our children, I'm like, is that something that we have manufactured in our head? Because sometimes as Black folks, right, we have a tendency to get this one-liner and then we pass that one-liner across the board. So we'll be like, well, you need to go because no one's going to look out for our kids but us. We'll say things, well, going and having a Black experience, you learn more about how to be affirmed and how to be yourself. So here's the caveat. So both kids, the one that chose Coppin and the one that chose the PWI, they were both in all Black high schools, right? And so the ridicule, the judgment that they got was never from, well, I ain't gonna say never, early on it was more judgment from us than it was everyone else, right? So when I said, I'm giving you an example of what that was for us. So there's times, I had my son at the age of 20. So there's times when we went into the school and I looked like his sister. This is when I was real youthful then, real youthful and looking like I was drinking the good water and stuff. But so I looked like his sister. So we would have these conversations with him and I, and we would like laugh by the time he got to high school and say like, which one do you think it'll be this year, right? Because there was always that teacher who would assume that he was a stereotype. So one day, this is a teacher that he learned to trust. This was a Black male teacher. He had several Black teachers along the way. I felt like I need to put that out there. So he had a conversation with this teacher, and he was like, Ma, keeps saying like left things to me, like things that are like inappropriate. I think he is who you said he was, right? As my son was befriending this teacher, I already told my son, stay away. Like, he's not who you think he is. He's going to be one of those folks that eventually I'm going to have to put in his place because he's trying to father you because he's making the assumption that you're like every other Black kid, right? So my son is like, no, he's not like that. Start talking to him, right? The first time that he told this particular teacher, because this was also one of his band instructors, he told him no. And when he heard the word no, he said that he told him like, well, I think that you are having this disagreement and how you will handle me is because you're the alpha male of your house. So here's the thing. My son got two daddies. Two. The one I married and chose, and then the one I chose first that I slept with to make him. And so there's no alpha male in my house other than my husband. And then in his life, he has two of them, right? So I called the teacher on the phone because I'm not the one to jump to conclusions. So I pick up the phone. I said, hey, Antonio was telling me about a conversation that you recently had. I'm just trying to figure out a little more information. And he said, yeah. So recently I feel like we're having this alpha male thing that I often see in young men who need to be the head of their household. So if y'all know me, it took a lot to bite my tongue, right? So I'm like, okay, don't react yet. Let's see what he's about to say. So I'm like, so have you witnessed him, participate in any other kind of behavior? He's like, or is he speaking to somebody? Do you see any differences that maybe I don't see it? Let's talk about the situation. We go into the situation, and he said, because, sometimes I've seen him come to school with this expensive things on. And I asked him where he got it from. So because my son came to school in a Ferragamo belt, right? Judge away, don't care. And a Ferragamo belt. And because you feel like he has things that you feel like he's now the alpha male of my house and you're wondering if he's selling drugs. So I let the teacher go on. I'm like, and he's explained he couldn't point out any behaviors. He kept stereotyping them and putting them and grouping them with every Black man. And you know how our young Black men are, and they always need to be watched and they need to understand what struggle is. And then I stopped him. If he has two parents who work hard, right? And now I'm not saying this. This is probably going to sound like a slight brag. He has two parents who earn right? Who earn a very, very handsome income and have a business that generates a very handsome income. I've been making, I ain't gonna tell y'all what I've been making, but I've been making in that top percentile, 3 percentile, since I was 20 something years old. And so for this man to now tell me that my son was a certain kind of way and he was expecting certain things from him and he couldn't wear certain things and he, he was thinking that he was every other dude out here because of what he had on and he needed to understand the struggle. I don't understand. Every Black experience in America is different. Now, just because you see like him in front of you with the hoodie on and with the Ferragamo belt on and the whatever kind of jeans he has on for the day, that doesn't mean that he has to be the alpha male or he's falling into a stereotype. I have things, so my kids occasionally get things, right? I may not spend $400 for things because I'm frugal, but whatever he has on, that is not his place to now stereotype, right? And so I'm saying all of that to say those are some of the experiences that he's had where he has to go against his people. So at some point, he was also like, I'm ready. I'm like done. I want a new environment. I want to change. I want something different because I'm not doing this forever. And so when I think about some of these conversations that we have, again, going back to excellence and expectations and experiences, like where's our bar? Because I shouldn't have to send my son to or the assumption is that we're sending them to this school and they're going to have this experience and the administrative staff is horrible and you got to stay on them 2,000 times. But don't worry, girl, because he's going to be around other Black folks that I promise you are going to affirm him or are going to inspire him. That is my job. That's how I feel as a parent. It's nice when the outside world does. That's why he has mentors. That's why I have friends. That's why I have a network. That's why I do exposure. So is it that we're not doing that? Someone put in a post I think it was yesterday, when we were talking about the whole HBCUs, what are the benefits? And, they were saying, well, I sent my kid was raised in a predominantly white environment. So I made the choice to send them to a HBCU so that they can get some culture. And so I'm like, I get that, but I want us, right? I want us collectively to expose our kids to culture and their folks prior to them getting to college, right? I'm gonna put my sibling on blast, right? Because if you know us, we went to a predominantly white school, right? And we laugh and joke between my sister and I because our experiences were slightly different. Because as she was aging and she was getting into like sixth, seventh grade, my parents were like, "Oh wait, every time we take you around our people, you look a little bit uncomfortable. Like it seems like you're a little like this don't seem like your circle. Like, and I can't have you thinking that you are actually a part of other circles in a way that that you assimilate and that you get afraid of your own kind, right?" And so sometimes when I'm talking to like Black friends, especially because we've now changed our zip codes, we making a little money, we pulling up on you, we starting a little bit, right? And we were like, nah, girl, bye. Ain't nobody going down there to go get nothing. We ain't going to Mondawmin. We ain't doing these different things. But I'm like, that's all a part of making sure that your children know who they are and that they should never, ever like be scared of their own kind. Like it should never be a situation where, and when I say own kind, I mean people that look like them. Love you too, sis. She's commenting. I knew she was going to get me. But no, you should never have your kids that are afraid of people who look like them. And a lot of times it is not like you going into war zones. I'm not telling you to go around the way, pull up, everybody shootouts, but they fall into the same kind of rhetoric that we do. And so a lot of times I think that we are conditioned to believe a certain thing or a certain way. And so like you want to make sure, right? And I'm saying this with my chest, that you are exposing your children at a very early age to different variations of people that look like them, right? Because we get so caught into like, now we didn't change our zip codes. And then most of us, we didn't forgot where we came from because we're only like 1 or 2 generations removed from the hood anyway. And so if that is the case, then who is going to go back into our communities and help empower them and help our people get to a better spot if you're scared of them? I know I kind of transition, but you get the point. If we're scared of them, like it should never be a point that we get into like our kids like, oh no, oh, not those kind. right? And then we're waiting to put them around other bougie Black people. And don't get me wrong, listen, I ain't judging when I say that. I'm gonna own some of that title, right? Got a little bougie in me, right? But we should not wait to that level to now expose them to experience something different. That's all I'm saying. We should be exposing them a little bit earlier so that they can be a little bit more cultured and so that they can have a greater understanding for community and how for us to move and to pivot. And so I'll give you another example that kind of like floored me. So on, I think it was last year or the year before, one of my niece's friends was attending the Eastern Shore. And on the Eastern Shore, there were officers that were coming onto the campus and that were profiling our kids. They are coming on the campus of the HBCU with the Black faculty and staff and profiling the kids, right? And so there was a story, it went viral with one of her friends. And so as I'm digging deep into the story and going back into the history, I found out that this was something that had been happening for years. So for years, these white officers were allowed on this Black campus, targeting our kids, and nobody had their damn back. So then it made me again question this whole rhetoric of just because you go to an HBCU, that the people around you are going to have your back. Like, I feel like, yes, it should be enforced. But then when I'm looking and having conversations, it all goes back to expectations. Because we experience in the larger mainstream world where we're profiled and we're called out, the expectation is that happens everywhere. The expectations is that this is what our kids should prepare themselves for. When the hell do we raise the bar? Like, when the hell do we step up as parents, as leaders, as teachers, as administrators to have our kids back and show them a certain level of demeanor and excellence and claiming a level of expectation? Now, you can't affect the mainstream world, but you can't affect what goes on in that campus. You can't affect or impact how they treat our kids while they're in your presence. That is problematic as fuck to me. And if you want to know, yeah, I wrote letters, I got on my grind, I got on my job, I did all of these things, and I was like, yo, how you want to handle it? Kind of deal. Let's pull up, right? Because I don't understand it. And so when I look at our youth, and sometimes our youth say things like, they don't trust us, or they don't believe that we have their back, or they feel discounted, or we say things like they don't listen to us. Would you listen to us? Because we'll be out here preaching and claiming like, yo, we queens and kings, and know you come from royalty and all of this good stuff. But then our level of expectation is real low. And sometimes it's piss poor. Because no matter where you go, whether it's a white school or a Black school, you should still be demanding a certain level of excellence for your money. And if the school doesn't have resources, when do we then show up and say, yo, do you need me to sit in the office for like 2 hours or so? Do you need me to get some volunteers in order to pull up to make our schools better? So that when we talk about our schools, it's like, yeah, girl, it's going to be fire. But like, so when do we have this level of expectation that we enforce? I don't, like I told y'all. So long story short, I ended up going to 2 PWIs. I'm on my 3rd one now. Right? But guess who I give back to? I give back to schools that I don't go to or never went to. Because I'm getting tired of hearing, especially since I went through the experience with my son, I'm getting tired of hearing that this is what we should expect. And so either I'm going to be a part of the solution or I'm going to be a part of the problem. And so I can't be a part of the problem. And I can't be out here running around complaining about things. And then I hear people a lot of times shout out, be like, yo, that's my HBCU, you need to go. And then when I'm asking them questions, like, well, when is the last time you gave back? Are you a part of your alumni association? Can we start a pipeline? So listen, I was in healthcare for 20-something, over like different variations of healthcare for almost 20-something years. All collectively, I think it's like 18 or something right now, right? And was in there for a really long time. And I went out and I started doing healthcare IT software, configuring software, whatever for systems. And I'm sitting next to young men and women who come out of college that don't look like me at like 22, 23, making 70 grand a year, baseline, first job, never worked at McDonald's, right? And then I'm talking to our kids and I'm like, hey, how did you get into this? And I'm finding out that, not our kids, but they're still my kids, right? But they just, even though they don't look like me, but you get the point. So I'm sitting there talking to the youth around me, because now I'm the old girl in the office. Sometimes, anyway, I'm the old girl in the office. So now I'm sitting and I'm talking to folks, and I'm like, well, how did you get here? If you've never worked a job, it wasn't nepotism. It was that they had a pipeline at their school for top performing companies that would come and recruit straight off the college campus, that would look for those who performed well and would reach out to them by phone, like, them Army recruiters do us. And then when I'm talking to my friends, right, that did go to HBCUs, like Howard was lit. Like, I stayed at a Howard homecoming. You just have no idea. I was at Howard homecoming when I was like 16, 17, judge yourself, having an absolute ball in those little dilapidated dorms that they used to have back in the day, right? Lit. So my friends, they didn't actually detour. They actually stayed on the right track in life. They didn't go out and have babies and none of that other kind of stuff, right? So they stayed on college campuses and college dorms or whatever, and they graduated and got their degrees. And then they were getting recruiters like Bank of America, right? And when Bank of America was coming in, it was recruiting Bank of America and Enterprise. And when those kind of companies were coming in, they were coming in offering them customer service jobs. So I don't know if you know this, but if you are a customer service manager, if you are in a customer service line from top to bottom, you are in the lowest budget allotted to any organization or company. Anyone. So if you're coming in and now you are recruiting for those jobs that make less, and then we're wondering why we're trying to get ahead. And so I also wonder, and y'all can check me. Again, I'm biased. I was going to have somebody on here that was not the same point of view, so we can talk about this, right? So we can have some variation in opinion, but these are mine, and I'm going to share my thoughts with you, and y'all can correct me later. But when I'm looking and I'm seeing that I have young non-blacks coming out of school making 60, 70 a year, at least about a good 70 or not more, right? And then on the opposite side of the fence, I have us coming out making 40 grand a year. When I just be scrolling through my Facebook feed, right? And I'm looking at people talk about their experiences and what they got going on in life and what they got going on, like as far as like their financial situation. And I hear a lot of times when my people that went to an HBCU say their degree, I wish I would never got my degree. My degree was a waste of time and money. Unless they did like the sciences, then that was a different conversation. So I kind of struggle like with what that excellence really is. And are we making sure as a people that we are staying properly connected in order to feed our schools in a way that really are empowering my kids? Because I would like my grandkids to be able to go to an HBCU and I don't have to call 20 times to make sure they are right. It is 2020. Like, why don't they have financial technology involved in the financial aid in some of these offices? There's a school. I'm not going to put the school on blast because I have a close connection to the school. But there's a school in the South that is trying hard to bring their school up to a certain level of standard. And the Alumni Association are saying things like she's changing things too quickly and they don't want her there. And why is she accepting certain cash and money? And why is she trying to improve this or try to improve that, right? Now, I'm very conscious that top 10, like Howard, Hampton, Spelman, Morehouse, Clark, NCCU, Xavier, Fisk, North Carolina A&T, that's a whole different breed. And it's a different breed because their alumni give back. So I'm just going to challenge y'all, right? And then I'm going to get off my soapbox and move in because I got a visitor, right, that popped up that's going to come on and she's going to talk with me because she went to an HBCU. So she's going to come on and tell y'all about her experience, right? But what if you sacrifice one thing? When I say one thing, I mean one thing. Like, so I'll tell you what I've learned to sacrifice. And I don't need you to sacrifice something like I'm about to tell you. I went on 3 vacations every year, right? Real vacation, big vacations where I splurge. I don't look at my bank account. I like a good 5-star experience. Your girl likes to live, right? So I sacrifice at least one of those vacations to make sure that I bring back into the schools and make sure that if I don't do it in a college fund or if I don't do it direct donation to the school, like I do something on those lines to make sure that I'm doing one donation, right? So somebody can't give that, but can you give up a pair of shoes? Can you give up like just that one little thing? Can you just say, you know what, for the month of August, I'm not going to spend no money, and I'm going to give this money back to one of the HBCUs in my area so that they can be out here living and surviving? Because it's all of our duty to make sure that our kids have a certain level of excellence. Because my kids are spoiled. And I'm going to say it, right? They're spoiled. I don't show y'all them, but they're spoiled. They have been exposed to experience. I have a 8-year-old who prefers St. Regis brunch and high tea, that likes sushi over hamburgers. You hear me? That when she goes into the American Girl style, she gets stores, she gets the net. We do all of that. I got a son who understands what quality feels like when it comes to a t-shirt. Like he'll look at it, he'll be like, nah. He's addicted to quality of certain socks. Slightly spoiled. Now we go to Walmart and Target. Now don't be misled. But because they've been exposed to something different, and y'all could judge away, because I was 6 years old with Louis Vuitton bags and Gucci. My mama went and had custom made suits, leather suits, and wore 14 karat gold nails. But again, we went to Kmart and Ames. I don't know if y'all remember Ames as well. So I'm not doubting, I'm not knocking a little luxury, as long as if I ain't paying my, taking my bill money and making sure BG, well, I don't got BG, I got Georgia Power now. Georgia Power is paid before I pay them shoes, right? Or before I go out there and go buy me a pair of whatever I like. And I believe that sets a certain standard, and it's not just with the material things. It's an experience. My kids were 6 and 7, going on vacations out of the country. The little one, poor little one, coronavirus to mess her whole little life up. But for the experience, so that they know what excellence looks like and what it feels like, and so that they can shoot to the stars. But before we get off this whole HBCU thing, I'm gonna bring my girl, Truly Inspired Martin. So she can tell me a little bit about what her HBCU experience was and what was the benefits, Dana.
What's good? What's good? This is real candid, real raw, real. I'm in the car, no makeup on, got a little lip. All right, I'm out here. What's up?
You still Black excellence though, girl. You don't need all that.
You already know, girl, natural. Hello. Except for this hair, though. Hold on.
Sometimes you gotta grab one out the closet.
What's up? What's up? I hear you going in over here. I hear you going in. I'm like, ooh.
What was your HBCU experience like at Clark then?
Oh man. So just to put it in perspective, right? So I'm from Jersey, born and raised. I had a pretty crazy teenage childhood, a lot of self-inflicted pain, of course. But one thing that I knew was that I wasn't going to be able to grow where I was. So I ain't cared nothing about Jersey. I ain't applied to nan one school in the tri-state area, okay? Because I knew I had to get gone or I was going to be trapped with my own little demons and stuff. So I applied. Clark Atlanta was always my first choice. Always my first choice. But I applied to probably about 20 different schools, got into about 19 of them, did not get into Savannah State. Still mad about that. But I remember almost settling for South Carolina State because I didn't get an official welcome letter from Clark Atlanta. I was pissed. I'm like, yo, they didn't accept me. Everybody else accepted me. What the heck, right? So I'm salty. Come to find out, I ain't get a letter. I got an email. So I got a whole welcome letter, acceptance letter or whatever in an email form. Girl, I was like, to heck with everything else. I'm going to Clark Atlanta. So come to Clark Atlanta. Of course, I was real glamorized because I thought about all the movies, right? I had got like my HBCU want to go to HBCUs from watching shows like Different World, right? Like that was my I think that was literally the imagery that pushed me into saying, oh nah, I done been around all these mixed people, from Jersey. I had a whole I had white friends, Hispanic friends. I know a whole lot of, I'm bilingual to some degree, right?
Girl, I could
So
cut you out in
I was
Spanish.
just like, yo, I really want the culture. Yo, hello, bendejo. Like, no, I'm just playing. Um, but there there's a certain element that I felt like I was missing, and I needed it to be rooted in the Black experience. So I said, I'm going to Clark Atlanta. So I get here, and I'm like, wait a minute, this ain't what it looked like on TV, right? Like, the school was in the middle of the hood, right? As every HBCU seems to be, which is a whole nother discussion for a whole nother day. But I was damn near culture shocked because it was just not what I expected. And I remember pulling up, and I was like so hyped, like I'm about to get my, my dorm room assignment, blah, blah, blah. Here's the kicker. They overbooked. It's almost like a hotel. They overbooked the freshmen. Okay, it's about to get dark right here. They overbooked the freshmen, and your girl ain't have no room.
You
I
know
get
what's
there. Yeah, go ahead.
you know what's crazy, Dana? So first of all, I think we probably would have been at Clark at the same time. I actually applied for Clark and got in, right? Long story short, it didn't happen. Um, but like as I'm applying, my son and my niece were applying for schools. That was so common in like 3 different HBCUs. Like
That's the
where
issue.
how do you accept me and don't have a room ready? So one of my son's friends is actually going to Howard, and he's commuting every day from Baltimore to DC, like a 45-minute hour commute or so, right? Because they didn't have a room available. One of my other niece's friends, she went to another school. Was it Lincoln? I can't remember which school it was. Same experience. How does this happen?
It happens a lot, and this is the issue, right? It's like that. I think what's the term? Like when you overcommit
Yeah.
and underdeliver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that part, like when I say now, I don't want this to paint the picture of don't go to a HBCU,
Right.
because that's not my wording at all. I actually would not have traded my experience for nothing. The money that I paid, I mean, y'all could have came down a little bit on that ticket. But the experience, the things that I've learning about like true oppression, learning about culture, everything that was taught to me was almost opposite of what I was learning in textbooks in high school. And it
Mm.
was just really embracing who we were. I honestly don't believe that I would have chosen the path that I'm on right now or become the person I am right now if I had not found the grounding that I found in an HBCU. Like, I really learned myself. It's crazy because you truly start to uncover these things about your Black culture, about your Blackness. Like, you think you Black, but
Yeah.
when you go to a HBCU, you become like real woke, okay? Because you start to really see things and understand things. But to backtrack to that experience, there's things that need to be fixed within the way that the structure is in a lot of HBCUs. I went through the whole ordeal with not having housing. I went through the whole ordeal with financial aid, sitting in lines for 8 hours trying to get financial aid because all of a sudden my financial aid is not active, and now my grant ain't there. Now the scholarship that I was promised is not available. Like, it's a whole list of stuff that I've seen people's experiences mirror each other. Housing, financial aid,
Yeah.
can't get into classes. You know what I'm saying? Like, just all these
How
little
how
things.
did you how did you navigate some of that stuff, right? Because because I do think that our kids have to be exposed to who they are, right? And have that knowledge of self. That's that up top. You gotta have knowledge, some somewhat knowledge of self, right?
Yep.
And so how do you get past all of the crazy, right? Because if I'm a kid and I don't have very active parents, or I'm a first generation college student and my parents don't even know about this world, Like, were you able to navigate all of those things and still like keep pushing and staying and not drop out because you keep hitting these snafus?
Listen, I about dropped out almost 5 times. Okay, like let's not get it twisted. That you have to want it. Like you have to be persistent. I have so many friends that can tell you a whole nother story. I even have one of my mentees. She went to Clark. Like this was a big deal for us because she's like, "Girl, I'm going to your alma mater." Like da-da-da. We were happy. And then second year came around and she was like, "Dana, I'm transferring to Georgia State. It's too much." Like the process, and then she tells me like the process at Georgia State was so seamless. Like she ain't have to wait forever for no financial aid. Like the tuition was less. She was like, my classes felt like they were a little bit harder, but I didn't have to go through all of that. My housing was already assigned before the school year started. Like I'm looking at this and I'm like, we're missing processes, we're missing systems, like we're missing, like, you know how, and it sucks to say this, right, but you know like how some people talk about black businesses and how they don't have customer service, how they don't have processes, how it's like we run in the schools, the black
Like,
schools, like janky black business, and that's a problem.
yeah.
We have the ability and the capability to really be out here with these D1 schools and all of that, but we don't act accordingly. Like they trying to make sports a bigger deal now, like so that people will start wanting to be drafted out of HBCUs and all that stuff. But that starts at the foundation. And ain't nobody gonna keep coming to no HBCU or seeing the value in it if they feel like they gotta struggle. You know what I'm saying? Like the struggle is not real.
Like it's and so that there goes that level of expectation again, right? And Christy said she wonders if things change. Unfortunately, not apparently. Like when I'm talking to not only my kids, friends, and stuff like that, but I also spend a great deal in colleges, universities, on campus, talking to our young women and men. And so, no, it seems like the same, like all of those things that you listed out, Dana, is still happening and it's still going. And it's like, how do we change this? It cannot be the but, because we are missing out on so many opportunities to do dope things, right? Because for the Dana who stays, there's also another one that's like, yo, I'm not going to do it. If I'm honest, right? So I already knew going into it that my niece, if she encounters these things, she's going to be like, okay, I'll sit here, I'll wait, I'll do what you need me to do. She's going to show up extra early. She's not going to leave until it's done, right? My son, on the other hand, the way his patience is set up, he like, man, listen, I done talked to you 5 times. Like, when you going to do what I said? And then he struggles as he comes into his manhood with not wanting to be too assertive or too aggressive, but like pissed off. And guess who's not? I just can't do it. The way my life's set up, I can't sign up to like be showing up and kicking down doors forever. And so it's like, how do we get to this level of excellence? Because so you made up a great point, which was, if this is how we're running our schools, right? So now I've never really been exposed. Let's just say a person haven't really been exposed. My parents don't have a strong network necessarily, or like we don't have aunts and uncles that are out here doing it, you know, having and exuding a certain level of expectation, right? Like she got that at Georgia State service. She wasn't expecting that, right? So now we go off, we get our degrees, we build businesses, and the businesses look like the businesses we were just a part of for the last 4 years. And then now when it comes time to correct that, right? What happens? Because this is what we've been exposed to, or this is what we're used to. And like I will say, poor customer service, black or white, is poor customer service, right? But I'm gonna be real honest. Can I be real honest? Like, I don't really care about everybody else. Like, my business is with my folks. Like, I do what I do because I can't have us out here running the business like the HBCU. And so if I'm going to give you everything that I learned from my PWIs, all of them, and I'm going to give you all of the experience I learned from corporate spaces or interacting with businesses who do business, right? And so I just want us to do better with being able to expose ourselves to the greater stuff and not saying the buts.
And that's where I think they really need to take a strong look at what these other universities are doing, because if you look into AUC, we're the only university. Okay, let's not get it twisted. They always put our name last, but baby, we first. Okay, so
you better go ahead. You better go ahead and
Woo, sorry,
talk your
sorry.
stuff.
I felt a little bitterness in my spirit because
It's
they
all in
always
your
be trying.
spirit. It all came out.
They be trying to come for Clark Atlanta University, baby. They Clark College is Clark Atlanta University. Okay, they over there, we over here. But one thing that I know is that if they would just take a strong look at other, let's even use PWIs. Like, you look at their foundation. Some of the greatest people learn the best lessons by mirroring other greatness, right? Like, you got to look at what's great over there and say, hey, how can we mirror that over here? Case in point, one of the things that they started doing now, because the last time I've been on campus and I was speaking at one of my old professors' classes, and I walked in the building and I was like, what is this where all my money was going, girl? They got a Dunkin' Donuts in there now. I think they done got them a Chipotle. Girl, all we had was the calf and this other place called Jasmine's that used to serve us like lattes and stuff like that. Was all we had. Now they got like commercialized stuff. What that tells me is that they're looking around and they're seeing some of these things that are also on Georgia State's campus. They're seeing that having this stuff here for our people, our kids, are going to help, one, have everything here, two, make us look better, right? But three, also allow for, because there was a lot of issues going on with violence and stuff going on around the campus, that will stop so much outward movement and they can get what they need on campus. But by me seeing that y'all got all this stuff coming into the campus now and y'all building up all these fast food restaurants and all this stuff on the campus that we never had, it's telling me that you're looking somewhere. Somebody's looking at something and trying to mirror something, but they're not mirroring all the right things. Though the stuff that, the stuff that matter, like financial aid, like, first of all, Coca-Cola dumps, you hear me, dumps money into Clark Atlanta. But when it comes time to try to get your little gap grant to fill the little gap between you not graduating and you graduating, it's like, where's the money? Nobody knows. We got to make sure that we're running legitimate businesses. The school's a business at the end of the day. You got to make sure that they got to find ways to structure these schools in the way that they want to be addressed by the public. And that's where my issue lies. Like, the education, for me personally, I can't speak for everybody else, but the education was A1. Education was A1. The professors, 90% of them were great. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a lot, they were very knowledgeable. I got to see the image of myself in somebody else. All my professors, maybe except for like a few, were all Black. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got that experience. I got to make friendships, network. They were huge on networking, and that's something till this day that if you hit up somebody and they went to Clark Atlanta and they somewhere that you want to be, we gonna pull each other, right? That's the power of what we built there, the culture, the things you learn, the marching band, all the good stuff, right? Homecoming, like, there's stuff that I would not trade for anything, even
So,
the
like,
competitions and stuff.
it's interesting because that always comes up, that it's a network. You build a network of other people that look like you and have your best interest at heart. And so I will say that with my husband, right, he has his tag everywhere. And so we'll be somewhere random and he went to a smaller school in South Carolina. He went to Benedict College, right?
Okay.
And so he'll have his little tag on, and I promise you, like, we'll be out somewhere, somebody like, oh, so you live here, what do you do, where you at? And they do the whole little dance or whatever, and they will look out for each other. Yep. But I will say that is true to about any school.
Yes, it is.
Like, and networking tip 101, if you have graduated, attended a certain school, like, shout your school out and reach out to your network to figure out what options, opportunities, jobs. Like, I love that when you go on LinkedIn, it tells you everybody, like, it tells you 56 people have worked for this organization that are part of your alumni, and they show you the names. Yep. So, like, being able to plug in and tap into that, again, go into a PWI. So it's the same concept, though. where I still feel that same level of support. But I think we have to put ourselves out there to network in a way to understand that we are not just paying for the education. You're also paying to create a network of professionals with like-minded interests, and so that you guys can look out for each other and to make sure that we do that. But back to the way that we run it, like, I feel like we should be having some sort of conversations about what we propose. Like, that level of transparency with the finances is huge.
Yeah.
Because we say all the time, well, we don't get, like, my husband argues this, we go back and forth. I mean, it'd be like a whole debate in here, like the great debaters, like he be posted, I be posted, like, and because he's quit, he be like, well, you know, they don't get the same funding as, you know, as some of the other universities or these state colleges and universities. And I'm like, baby, did you see what that to it? Like, and I'm not talking about, like, again, Coppin's offering a great, for 17,000. I expect some things, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, we work with them. I mean, but that was, she's had quite a few just in her 2 years. She was attending one class virtually, and then they would have assignments. I mean, one class in person, and then they would have assignments online. The two classes didn't match up. So the professor online failed her or tried to fail her. She looked at it and she's like, why do I get this? And find out like, she's had stuff where she's shown up, the grants or the scholarships or whatever, not showing up on time, coming up and putting erroneous charges on the bill. She's had those things, right? But she navigates them. And I, you know, again, it's 17 or even free, because we don't really pay anything for her out of pocket. We're going to work through some stuff. And my mother's normally her advocate because I don't have the patience. However, like, that shouldn't have to take place. So what do we need to specifically, collectively call out to make sure that gets better? Is it the transparency in the books? Is it, like, when it's, you know, time for kids to go back to school? What do we need? Volunteers? Because some schools don't want volunteers. I won't shout them out, but there are schools where I've actually reached out and, like, do y'all need volunteers or something? And they were like, well, did they come from this school? Did they attend our HBCU? But apparently y'all need help.
It's a whole thing, because even one of the things that we have is the alumni council. And actually, I was speaking with one of my friends that actually, I have a couple friends that still work, that actually went back at work there now. And one of them was speaking to me about serving on the board for, you know, the alumni council and all of that stuff, to kind of, I guess, see how we can better systems, see how we can raise more funds for students coming in or whatever. But I think that would also be a good stomping ground to kind of, like, break through those things, kind of like, okay, what? Are you here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, like, what are some of the issues that we're dealing with? What are some of the things that we need to break through? And really be able to formulate a plan on how to change that dynamic. And that would also mean I need to know where you guys are now. Has things changed? I know that some things have changed with housing, like they have more, and they just built a whole new thing around Clark now that's supposed to be for student housing, but I'm thinking that's going to be more for, like, off, like, people that are not necessarily on campus,
okay,
so to speak. So I've seen that, but I don't know exactly what has changed to what degree. And I think understanding where we are now versus where we were then and where we can be is where I can possibly help and come and fill in the gaps. Because it is one thing to talk about what irritated you or talk about what y'all ain't doing right or wrong, but it's different when you step in and see where you can offer and see what you can bring to actually assist with the issues that you have seen in the past. So that's where I'm going to be working on.
Agreed. I think being able to see it firsthand too, it gives you another perspective and, like, oh, I was kind of judging this. And now I see why this is happening. Now, how do we get resources in order to fix it? And so even with the donations, people want to see where that money is going, or at least create a narrative to make me think I understand where this money's going. It can't be like the church fund, like the building fund in the church that lasts 20 years, and you ain't never broke no ground. But it has to be something tangible that you're able to say. And I think if they, from a communications perspective, were more transparent with it, right? Yeah. So what is it? 3 schools just got this huge donation from Jeff Bezos X or whatever. Like being able to
probably 2 schools, but go ahead.
Don't you start no stuff. But just by saying we received this donation and putting on their website where they expect those funds to go, guess what happens? We don't like to be outdone, honey. So we got this beautiful white woman who decided to come and bless us with this amazing gift, but we don't like to be outdone, right? So for everybody that's judging this amazing, and I'm going to keep saying it, white woman who has come along and decided to bless our lives, right? Put your money where your mouth is. Show up, right? Yep. And we don't have just Bezos' ex-wife money, right? Because none of us ain't sitting in the room with Jeff right now, right? No. Not even on an allowance basis. But again, what can we do in order to make sure that we are doing our part in order to give back so that our kids can understand what excellence looks like, what it feels like. And so when they go off into not only their corporate spaces, but in their life, they have a certain level of expectation. I'll ask you one more thing before, I need to ask one more thing, then before one more thing.
You only got one more, sis, because you know what today is, sis. You know what today is.
It sure and so no, okay. So like when we talk about like the level of, being woke and having these experiences, we talked about what it takes in order to go on campus. Did it prepare you for a corporate America that did not look like you?
That's a strong question, sis. Here's where my 2 side is to that. So it prepared me in the way that, so I had internships and what we call shadow days and stuff. So for those that don't know, my degree is in criminal justice. Completely side that way, right? My degree is in criminal justice. I always wanted to work for the FBI as a federal agent. I had a lot of issues with the law. I had situations that happened to me in the past where I felt like law did not work in my favor. Just on a situation where I was gang raped and we tried to get the guys and felt like nobody cared type stuff. So I always had like this thing in the back of my head where it was like, yo, I need to be on the right side of law. Everybody wanted me to go to law school. People still want me to go to law school. My stepmother is like a judge in Chicago, like a real high judge. Like she's still telling me like, you can still go to law school. Like, but that for me just didn't end up being where the direction in which I'm going with the degree. Mm-hmm. But I can say they had a lot of those big organizations. Like I shadowed with the EPA and a couple other organizations, and they shadowed us with organizations within the organization that was looking for minorities.
Yeah.
Right. So when I remember one professor I had told me, be prepared to always show up as the best version of you and give everything you got, articulate and show them that you are educated, because the world outside of here does not look like you. And I remember saying, damn, I spent 4 years in here and I'm coming out of here almost scared because I felt like I had it down pat in here. You know what I'm saying? And then you go out there and you realize, oh shit, I'm black. like this is really a thing. Like I have to be prepared. And I feel like that was one of the things they were really doing. They were really grooming us to be the best version of ourselves. When we talk about Black excellence, there were certain things that my teachers would not tolerate from me because they said that I was, what was the word he said to me that one time? Like I was operating below my level of excellence or something to that degree. And he was like, I will not accept this paper from you. I will not allow you to speak like that. I will not allow you, like, why do you have on a skirt instead of a pantsuit? Like that type of stuff for like our what do you call them, mock interview days and stuff.
Yeah.
Like they were on top of us because they were grooming us to be and show up as the best of the best because they knew what we were going to be up against out there. But I think that also was the part where you're like, okay, y'all did all of this, and I know that I'm black excellence and I got this, right? But then when you go out here and you realize that, okay, I'm trying to interview for the district attorney's office, and they looking at me like, who is this black girl that went to Clark Atlanta University? But they'll take the person that went to Northwestern. Like it's I remember so many times people in interviews that I did early on, it was almost like they devalued my degree because I went to a black college. Or they would be like, "Oh, what? Oh, this is Clark." I forgot. It was just some interview I went on, and he was like, "Oh, this is Clark something." Girl, it was some white college somewhere in Maine or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "No, no, it's right here in Atlanta, Clark Atlanta University." I said it's an HBCU right downtown, like not even 10 minutes from here. And he was like, "Oh, okay." And it was just kind of like it didn't matter anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like it was kind of like, oh, at first when I thought you went to Clark whatever up in Maine, like, girl, I got you. Like, oh yeah, tell me what you could what can you do? As soon as I made the clarification, it was almost like, oh, do you even qualify? So it was hard trying to be groomed into this person inside of these walls, so to speak, right?
This is
And
why I think it's so important. And I'm sorry to cut you off,
no,
Dana,
you
but
good.
this is why I think it's so important that we are in all spaces. Because a lot of times, like, no, our counterparts have no idea what an HBCU is. Like, trivia, go to some of y'all white friends and ask them what is an HBCU, right? And see if they know. Don't go judging, but like to
Right.
have casual conversation. Many don't know, right? And so we push entrepreneurship, which is a whole nother concept, right? In conversation, but we push entrepreneurship on everyone, but everybody's not built for entrepreneurship, right? We need people in all spaces and places so that when things happen, when we're reviewing applications and looking at resumes, that someone can say, oh no, they have a phenomenal this, they do this, or that, they're great education. This is what the expectation is, being able to outline that. Because I'll say firsthand, from being in a leadership position, and when I was on my whole corporate climb thing going on, I realized that there's closed door communication, and closed door communication wins. I don't give a damn how much they keep pushing open door communication, come and talk. Closed door communication wins. So when there are conversations, when they're looking at names and they're looking at resumes, people are biased as hell. And people are like, oh, it's illegal. Just because it's illegal doesn't mean that it's not done. And so, like, when they're looking at schools, when they're looking at names, when they're looking at degrees, there has to be somebody on the opposite side of that door that can value or place value on that level of education and your skill set. And we don't do that enough. We just don't. And we don't because we're not in enough places.
Yeah, and I just seen the comment that leadership, it starts at
Yeah.
the top. That's been one of the issues at Clark Atlanta. I won't get too deep into it, but that was one of the issues that we had. We had poor leadership, poor presidents, right? Like the presidents that were over, you got people stealing money, you got people misallocating funds, you got people that don't really have the knowledge base to do what they're doing and understanding how to truly lead. Because if you know how to lead, then you'll build other leaders underneath you. But instead, it was just a bunch of people scrambling, trying to figure out what to do because the person at the top don't know what to do. And
Yeah.
that was one of the main issues that I know they've been trying years and years over to clean up and clean up and clean up. And that is the truth. The leadership is where it's going to start. If somebody can come in at the base level, like they know what they know, like they're smart, they're witty, they have business sense, they'll be able to come in and look at the hierarchy and really be able to configure something new that works, that's not the same stuff y'all been doing, because obviously it don't work. So
that goes
Those are
back to
important.
running colleges and universities like they are businesses, right?
Yep.
Because a lot of times when you get into that level of like academia, they have expectations when it comes to your degrees and your titles.
Yep.
But there has to be a balance between that and your leadership abilities. And a lot of times we'll go with the we'll go with the Trump titles and the Trump degrees, and won't focus on what have you done as a leader. And then we are also in a time where entrepreneurship leadership is a thing, where you have to be more inclusive. You have to make sure that you're talking to your people. You have to make sure that when you're inviting ideas, that you are including everyone at every level to ensure a certain amount of success. And sometimes with that level, or at that level, we don't do that. And one of the things that you mentioned, which I find to be very common, is that, a lot of times we got two different types of Black folks. It's been like this since like we're out of slavery, right? Where you have the ones who want to prove to white folks
Yep.
that I am just as good as you. I am better than you. Accept me, embrace me because I am the superior, or more than capable. And then you have the ones on the other side that we don't give up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to use you how you use me. Let's play chess together.
Yep.
I'm going to get what I can get. You can get what you can get. But as far as you thinking that I have to act, or show up a certain kind of way for you to accept me, nah. Now, younger in my career, I'm not going to lie, I did. I had the Condoleezza Rice hair, and that black business suit that they told you to wear, right? I didn't go with a weave. I didn't go with a wig. I didn't go with braids.
Not the
I had
Condoleezza
that, like, I had my Condoleezza Rice look down pat, because I knew who I was going in front of, and I knew you were biased. I didn't expect you not to be, right? So I would go until I got to a certain level where I can call my own shots and make my own checks. And then that's when I said out the window, listen, right now it takes a whole lot for me to do any kind of code switching or simulating. It's just not going to happen. I don't do it for my people, and I definitely don't do it for them. This is what you get. So as y'all see me on these internet streets, go and expect this whole package in real life. Because it's just to a point where you have to understand your value, your worth, and understand what excellence that you're bringing to the table. So, Dana, if there's anything that you want anyone to take away from this conversation, what would that be, Miss Truly Inspired Martin?
Go to a HBCU. I don't care what we talk about. We we need y'all to show up for us, because the more people that come in and lend their ears, lend their words, and say, hey, you guys should probably straighten up this, do that. You got to tell your own people to do better, right? And that starts with infiltrating the institution. So you
Yeah.
got to go in there and militarize that thing. Like, listen, this is what we will not take. This is what we need. This is what has to happen. We have the ability, like these schools, like we had all the newest technology back when I was in school. So I can only imagine what they have now. Like, it's not like we don't have what it takes. It's that we don't have structure. We don't have foundation. And I'm pretty sure that there's a lot that has changed over the years, but I'm also sure that people are still struggling with stuff, because my mentee just went to college 2 years ago and she was already still mad about stuff, right? So that's telling me that there's still something that needs to change. Whether that's somebody that needs to go ahead and create a course to teach customer service or business foundation principles to HBCUs, presidents, and
Would you say I need
staff.
another check?
I said you need to go get
You said
another
I need
check.
another check, Dana. I
I'm
think you
trying to tell
said I
you.
need to come to the A and get me another check.
Listen, because there was nothing in the world that I would trade for my experience at Clark Atlanta University. Okay. One of the things that will always stick in my mind, and this is something you can leave in your spirit too, right? Is our that was my Cicely Tyson, leave in your spirit too, right? So one of the things that will always be my driving force is our motto: find a way or make one. I
Love
don't
it.
do nothing outside of that. If I ain't get nothing else, and I got a whole lot from Clark Atlanta, but if I ain't get nothing else, that always taught me to find a way or make one. People ask me why I'm so resilient. People ask me why I'm so persistent. People ask me why I'm so consistent. It's because I know that no matter which way I go, I gotta find a way, or if that way ain't working, I'm gonna make one. And that's one of the things that they taught us, not only as a model, but it was a principle for everything that we learned and everything that we were to do going forward. So I don't care if you mad about the financial aid. Go up in there and fix it. Help make some changes in there, but do not give up on HBCUs, because
So I love that.
that's ours. That's us.
So I
For
love that. So Dana said, when y'all show up, and if your housing ain't right, don't just cut a fool. Don't be cussing folks out, but hold them accountable for a process that's gonna make them better. And I love that. Find a way or make a way. You know, that's like my life. Like, what? Can't do it. Who said can't? Like, nah. We gonna figure it out. We gonna make it happen, because everything I touch has to be great. So I feel like it goes really good with my personal mantra, which is everything I touch has to be great, because I find a way or I make a way. Like,
so you need to just go on up in there. Go ahead. I know you already got a curriculum in your back pocket. Go ahead, pull that thing out. Go up there and say, "Hey, I see and I know. Here's the stats that y'all need help in this in this area, and I want to go ahead and help you put some structure in here. And by the way, when I do this for y'all and y'all pay me this good check, I need you to go ahead and connect me with the other presidents over there at X, Y, and Z college, because I'm about to put them together too, and it's gonna be a whole infrastructure.
so
And
here's the
now we
thing,
gonna have
because you never know who's on your friends list, right? So I'll come in to an HBCU for free with a team, and we will get shit done, right? Shit done for free. I just need y'all to be open. Now, after I get done with the first one, though, the first one who volunteers and the first taker, then you tell a friend, and then we're going to get these next checks. But that first one is on me. Be the first one. I promise you. My team can't fail. You know, we can't fail, Dana.
There's no failing around here. We make it happen. These streets. We get her done.
So I just want to say thank you. And if there's one thing that I want everyone to take away from it, is hold each other accountable. Like, excellence has to be an attitude. It has to be a way of life. And we have to be able to call each other to the carpet, but not do it in an overly emotional way. That we need to learn how to communicate the facts and then come up with valid solutions on how we can contribute to the solution and not just state the problem. If you don't know, get with your homegirl, get with your homeboy, get with your mama, your daddy, your cousins and them, whoever, and come up with some solutions so that you can present with a certain level of expectation. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Dana, how could the folks find you?
You can find me at Truly Inspired Martin on all social media platforms, or go to www.itstrulyinspiredmartin.com. I teach women how to go from BS to success in your personal life and in business. Let's go.
Appreciate you. Have a great one. See you guys next Thursday.